Okay, we are ready. Please, Kristen.
Hello and welcome to this first webinar of ICAR about proficiency tests. I'm Christian Baumgartner from Milchprüfring Bayern, from Germany. And since recently, I'm again the chair of the milk analysis subcommittee of ICAR. And I'm happy to welcome you for this first webinar dealing with proficiency tests. So our webinar, you see the bullet points, what we are going to talk about. So I will have a short introduction about what is ICAR for and what is the use of being a part of the ICAR network. And then Silvia Orlandini will talk about the PT platform and will analyze some recent results we have from the PT and will introduce to you about the new somatic cell count golden standard and the effects we can see in our proficiency testing scheme. So the setup of this webinar is as follows, and I think you know this type of software we are using. You can, if you click on your lower part of the screen, you find an icon for chat. So you can put your comments or whatever in the chat line. And there's a special section for questions and answers where you can put your questions, but never mind. So we will have no long presentations because you were able to look at the content and at the presentations beforehand. So Silvia will keep the different presentations very brief. And this webinar is meant to have enough room for discussions and for questions and answers. So starting now, please feel free to put your questions and don't be shy. So we are having now almost 100 colleagues around the world, and it's really a good forum to have a discussion and to put questions forward. So thank you at this point for Cesare Mosconi for organizing and being our technical host, and of course Silvia, to you to prepare all the content and everything about the ICAR PT, and you have the main load, the heavy load of today's webinar. So thank you for putting all your efforts in there, and I'm looking forward to hear what you can present to us. But before we are really starting, I just want to make brief notes about why are we doing this and what is ICAR about. So for all of you who are not so familiar with ICAR, ICAR as an international non-governmental organization is really built for fostering networking. So especially or exactly what we are doing now, to give the floor to the practitioners, to the technicians, to work together and to build up relations, bilateral or multilateral connections between the different countries, because as you all know, our field of work is very special, and there is not hundreds of colleagues around the door we can talk to and we can hook up. So ICAR's meaning really is to provide this network and the activities fostering this network. And of course, ICAR as international organization is providing guidelines to do a type of standardization in the field of animal production, and as well, but a more recent activity to certify procedures and devices to make sure that everybody using such devices can rely on a standardized outcome of this technical equipment and these devices. So the overall aim is to standardize and harmonize, and of course, so the most benefit of cooperation can be gained as we are doing the same things in the same way all over the world. For the analytical field, of course, key to harmonize and standardize is proficiency testing, because for us as labs, it's very important to show that each result we obtain in our lab is comparable and is traceable to every other result which is produced in other countries, in other organizations. And if you as a technician decide to take part in this network in ICAR, you can find a safe harbor if you, as I said, do not have so much colleagues around the corner to hook up. So in ICAR, you will find the activities and the colleagues which will assist you and help you if you have problems or just want to share your knowledge, your experience. And yeah, which is nevertheless important, I think, and my personal experience in ICAR, you will find a very friendly environment. Crazy people like Silvia and Cesare and many others, which work is really fun. Not only technical things around, but a personal and in many cases friendship which is developed. So I think in today's world, it's as well a motivation to hook up with ICAR in this friendly environment, to just have friendly colleagues around. So that's my personal note, my personal experience. And now I will hand over to Silvia. Silvia, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Christian. And of course, the presentation was stopped. So sorry, I will share again my screen. Dear colleagues, welcome to this ICAR webinar. It's a really pleasure in this time to have the opportunity, in any case, to stay in contact with all of you. It's more than 2 years that we don't meet each other. So the first point is the ICAR PT platform. As you see in the pre-recorded videos that we provided instruction on these new tools. From March 2021, we have this new platform that will be extremely helpful to manage the international ICAR PT. At the beginning was made everything in-house, but now the data and the numbers of data that we are managing are quite important. So we really needed to standardize the process. And so what we have done, we have built up this new platform where you can manage directly your subscription. So you have an own account, all your data are really anonymized and protected. You have your account, so only you can visualize your data. And of course, in an anonymous way, we can do that. You can update your subscription anytime. So the type of parameters, the number of sets that you would like to receive, you can update it till 2 weeks before that the sample are scheduled to ship. One time that you have received the sample in your lab, you have analyzed the samples according to the procedure indicated and currently in applied in your lab, and you can upload your analytical results. In this way, for us, it's easier to collect all the data without any transcription mistake or typing error, if you don't do any, and download your individual report. The video that we have provided give you all the instruction, the importance of the approach of ICAR PT. So we would like it that you feel the ICAR PT as a customer that knocked to your lab and ask you to do a test. So your customer will ask you to respect a timeline, to give him the results in a certain unit, and so on and so on. So we are your favorite customer, and you will send to us your final results. So for that reason, the performance that we provided with the ICAR PT reports, have you seen, is like a traffic light, give you some input to implement your system. Can happen sometimes that the labs send us a different unit of measurement, and of course to treat such data is not easy because you are completely out from the general population, then send the data in another unit. When we understand that, we highlight on your performance test, and to avoid that you lose your data, and you can have as well your PT evaluation, we transform the data in the correct unit. But of course, this has to be very clear. If we have doubt about that, we simply have to discard your data. So you have received also detailed instruction that follow the video. So you should have all the information needed, and if you need more, do not hesitate to contact me or the secretariat. So this is regarding this new tool. And the next presentation is about the ICAR PT trends. As you know, since 2016, ICAR directly provided this service. You have received the complete presentation. Here we have prepared a very short clip that summarizes the main concept of this presentation. So I hope that you have had the opportunity to see the entire presentation, and I hope that this video clip give you some input as well.
Dear colleagues, thank you very much for attending to the ICAR Proficiency Test webinar, and I hope that you will find it interesting. I'm Silvia Orlandini, ICAR staff, and responsible for the plan and development of the ICAR Proficiency Test for the milk analysis. The method's precision and incomparability over the time are illustrated for each parameter offered in the ICAR Proficiency Testing Scheme. These graphics will serve to monitor the method performance over the time, but also the comparability between chemical and alternative methods or routine methods. For some parameters, the assigned values determined with chemical methods by 13-15 laboratories could be a good anchor to check on calibration. The continuous monitoring plan can identify positive events as the introduction of a certified reference material for somatic cell counting that starting to motivate the laboratories to check the calibration and to become aligned to the primer certified reference material. This resulted in an improvement of the reproducibility of the proficiency testing scheme below 10%. To conclude this presentation, ICAR confirmed that will continue to monitor the method performance for different parameters. ICAR Proficiency Test Scheme is a useful tool to describe the method performance. ICAR Milk Analysis Subcommittee as well will evaluate the data and, if necessary, will plan action to improve the analytical performance, for example, questionnaire that can collect information on the method application with the final aim to improve precision and equivalence. A general consideration is that the repeatability performance is always below the indicated limit for reference and routine methods. At the contrary, the reproducibility of alternative methods is frequently above the limits. It means that the method is correctly applied and the instruments are well maintained, but the calibration settings are not equivalent. The constant participation in the ICAR PT should gradually motivate to move closer to the assigned values, but for sure the possibility of using a certified reference material, as it is nowadays for the somatic cell counting, is a stronger motivation.
Okay. So I hope that despite is a very short 3 minutes video, so you can have fixed the the main take-home message of this work and the monitoring plan that we have for the ICAR PT. So there are some question, observation. Do you find this monitoring plan useful? So this is very important for us and to motivate in our activity of this type of service that we are providing.
Yeah, maybe I can step in because this webinar, this type of webinar for us as well is a kind of a trial or an experiment. We forwarded or we put the presentations online before for you to watch it and to digest in the best way. Maybe not every one of you, and we have now 102 participants in this webinar, had a chance to go through the slides, but they are still online and you can have a look at it. And this webinar is meant to put the questions forward. So if you should have questions, any type of questions, could be technical ones, how to understand how this platform works or whatever, please put forward. You can put your questions in the chat, or of course, Cesare can give the floor to one of you if you want to talk, if you want to speak to the participants. So everything is possible. Of course, the reaction is always a bit slow. If there are not any questions...
Just a moment, Christian.
Okay.
There is a request from Christian Santarelli. He has been updated now to the panelist. So
okay.
He can introduce the question directly.
Christian, you are online, please.
You are muted.
Christian, yeah, please unmute your mic. You can do it in the left down corner at the symbol.
No.
Otherwise, we cannot hear you.
No.
Yeah, sometimes the button is not easy to find.
You see the symbol? No, I'm not in sharing. If I put in sharing, I can give you, okay. So Christian, you can see that you have these symbols of your mic that is mute. You have to click on the mic, is on the bottom left, and you have to open the mic. Otherwise, you can write on the chat if you prefer.
Yeah. So if it doesn't work, just write your question to the chat and we can deal with it. Are there other questions around? So Silvia, maybe as well, from my understanding, the last PT rounds, what was the development of a number of participants?
Yeah, in the presentation, there was a picture that showed the trend. This picture showed that the main interest, so the main increase in terms of participants was for the somatic cell counting and for the infrared parameters. The reason of that, I can understand that is the easy analysis of that, of course, to take the charge to do 10 samples with rose water, but 10 samples with Killwell, really it's a harder work for a lab.
Okay.
With the routine method, of course, it's easier to participate in somatic cell counting, and infrared method are faster methods. And we saw, but in any case, for somatic cell, it was impressive. We started with 20, 25 participants. Now we are more than 50. So it's really, there is a great interest around it.
Okay.
And we have 2, 3 maximum participants that participate with the microscope method. All the participants with fluoro-optoelectronic method, and 2 or 3 participants with the charge couple device method.
Okay.
So this is additional.
So I see participants have some problems as a regular participant. You cannot see the mic sign or button.
Christian
or
possibly
the
can.
camera.
Now Christian has control on the microphone.
Yes, now Christian is turned on. Christian, please put your question forward. As explanation for all the participants, so if you want to speak and also use your cam, Cesare has to sign you in as what is it called, as panelist? Yeah, as panelist. So you have the full access to the mic and to the camera. If not, you just can watch, and of course you can use the chat and the question and answer section.
Harry van den Weigert has been promoted to panelist because possibly he has a question.
Yeah. Harry, go ahead.
So I will test the connections, and it works, I hope.
It works.
It works. Hi, Harry.
Hi. Good afternoon. Just a question that came to me through somebody else, but I want to ask, is non-cow milk covered by the ICAR PT? And if it's not, is there value for participating in ICAR PTs when you're only analyzing non-cow milk? Like goat milk.
Sorry, Harry, I didn't understand the last question. If there is
Okay.
the
question is goat milk covered through ICAR PTs? If you're just analyzing goat milk, is there any value in participating in ICAR PTs?
Okay, the history of the other species beside cow milk, the history of this topic and ICAR was that in the past we tried to organize the ICAR proficiency test for sheep and goat milk. It was decided at the time to open the proficiency test scheme only for the reference chemical methods. In my experience, I'm sure that if we should launch the ICAR proficiency testing to other species, sheep and goat, with a routine method, I'm sure that it will be successful, or we will have enough participants to provide robust statistics around. So thanks for the question, because give us the possibility to send out a questionnaire to see if there is enough interest to do that. And we have all the procedure ready to do that. So it's possible to organize a parallel or in another schedule. For sheep and goat milk, probably we could conduct in parallel, for example, so to provide sheep on goat or goat, so something like that. This is possible.
Oh, great question, Harry, because I remember back we had the topic or this issue as well in IDF discussed 10 years ago. And of course, it's a matter of participants. So all around the world, if you watch this, feel free to apply, to write an email to Sylvia. And of course, as you know, for a PT, there should be at least 10 or 12 participants to have a statistical evaluation, but if it's more, the better. So I can imagine that this could be a service of ICAR in the future, because sheep and goat, especially goat milk, of course, is a big field in the ICAR world and in ICAR membership. Silvia, I have another question in the question and answer section. I have a question about South American labs participation in the PT. Shipment time, is it adequate? Which is the sample shelf life? It's a question by Andrea Cartaya.
Okay, we have some few times in few rounds Argentina participated and more constantly Chile participated in the ICAR PT. If the subscription is done on time, we have all the time to organize with our subcontractor, that is Actalia, to organize the paper and all the documents that should comply with the custom office. Of course, each country has a different request. We needed to check and to prepare with a large advance to avoid that the sample are blocked. The shelf life is 10 days if the box is well maintained, and I'm not saying refrigerated, but so the sample should arrive optimally in the labs in 3 days, no more. You can analyze the samples in 10 days from the shipment date. So this is the shelf life. In Chile, usually we have no problem. In Argentina, sometimes is a raw milk. The sample is raw milk with the exception of some solution for lactose and Kildare method. And for the somatic cell counting, we provide 2 lyophilized milk. That this is absolutely is not a problem at all, because are extremely stable and they don't require. We prefer they are maintained and refrigerated, but we can assure you that nothing changes even if they are maintained at room temperature. So they're extremely stable samples.
I guess to my experience, it's a good idea to just hook up with Silvia and maybe Actalia to clarify the special situation in the country you are working in. And I have trust that in most of the cases, the samples can be delivered worldwide correctly so that the PT could work. I think in general, you can say it works.
This, yeah, thank you, Christian. This opportunity of this large webinar is give me the opportunity to clarify an important point. ICAR, starting in 2016, started this activity to organize the ICAR Proficiency Test scheme directly. So the management is under the responsibility of ICAR. ICAR means that made a contract with a subcontractor, that is Actalia, that provide us the samples and ship the sample. So all the questions have to be put to ICAR, and eventually ICAR will contact Actalia. Besides that, Actalia offered the possibility to send to you an additional statistical treatment with a different group of population. So there are some labs that participated in the ICAR PT, and they would like to receive an extra evaluation from Actalia according to the Actalia scheme and management and so on. This is for free. So the participant will pay only ICAR, but if they want for free, they can receive an extra statistical elaboration. This could be always, I have to be sincere, always I suggest to the labs, if it's not a big, huge overload, to participate, to ask also for these other statistics. But of course, this could provide some problem, because as I told you, we have 2 different populations, and sometimes even if you analyze the same sample with different population, even if Actalia applied ISO statistics prescribed by ISO 17043 on both statistical treatment, different population can provide a different performance. So it's up to you to manage that.
Okay, 2 other questions. One about camel milk. I think it applies the same answer as before for goat. So if interest is large enough, it could be organized. Of course, you have to say that the methods for camel milk are a bit more problematic, I guess. So this would be a special issue. But of course, I think, yeah, ICAR is a partner for any kind of questions. And in Silver, you have the partner to discuss that at least and to find a solution if you have a problem with tracing back your camel milk results to a certain backup or material. The other one was about total solids or other solids in the PT scheme. I think so far ICAR did not deal with other parameters. So ICAR, of course, is dedicated to the tests made for the ICAR testing scheme. Other parameters like total solids, it's more for a statistical evaluation. You can add the solids. If you mean special methods, I think the same, I would answer the same. So take contact or make contact with Sylvia, and you can discuss with Sylvia directly. Now I see Rashid. Rashid, hello.
Good afternoon.
You want to put the question forward?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Perfectly.
Okay. Finally, because I have access suddenly to the camera or the micro. Before I was not able. Okay. My question: you should think to expand to other components. For example, casein, protein, fatty acid, and free fatty acid. These components are part of many laboratories right now.
Okay, I think in parallel, answering this question in parallel with the others, if the interest is large, of course, I think from the methods and from the statistical treatments, there shouldn't be a problem to implement. But frankly speaking, we are starting from a quite small PT within ICAR, and the interest in labs is just increasing dynamically, I can say. So, of course, I think, Silvia, you are the technical manager of the PT. Many things are possible. It should be feasible. It should be possible to handle. And of course, if you pump up the volume and the parameters also for the labs, it's more complicated to organize such PTs, but in general, I agree. And I can say ICAR is open for any kind of wishes if there is a certain number of participants, because the materials and the statistical treatment has to be feasible and has to be made. But in general, I agree. But remember, we are in the ICAR world, not coming from the IDF and the dairy company side. We are talking about the proficiency testing scheme of ICAR, means of the labs dealing with DHI systems.
Yeah, but DHI has changed a lot. If you look Lactanet, DHI, we provide the BHB, we provide fatty acid.
Yes. Yeah, I understand, Rashid. Yeah. We are in line with you, so I think it's development, some steps to make for the future, and we appreciate your comment because it shows that there's some more work to do, and there is options for further development.
Thank you.
I
thank you.
Agree. Yeah, I fully agree with Christian. Just to provide you a further example, in 2019, if I remember well, we have introduced a DNA with PCR methods, and there was a big enthusiasm at the beginning, and now is decreasing a little bit. So, if we are really, even if this is a qualitative method and not quantitative method, I know the statistical problems around that. I simply to evaluate the performance of each lab. But of course, to implement a parameter with fewer participants It's not worldwide, let's say in that way. So, but fatty acid for sure is an important topic, so also in ICAR. So we should pay a great attention. I launched the 1 year and half the questionnaire, and few reply, and the few reply that I received was to implement the fatty acid profile. Yeah.
No, my personal feeling is, Rashid, that FFA, the free fatty acids, will be the next candidate to be implemented, because for the feeding and management practices, it's a very important parameter. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so Silvia, I think we could proceed.
There is just one more question regarding
okay.
What is the reference? It is in the chat. What is the reference method for lactose and urea?
As we call the reference method, is as it is reported nowadays in the ISO IDF guidelines. And for lactose as a reference, we mean HPLC method, and for urea is a differential pH. So at the moment, this is the situation. Under evolution for urea, but this is the situation. Okay, so I try to share again my presentation, and I will illustrate you the next clip regarding the somatic cell traceability with the European Community Joint Research Center certified reference material. So here we have a 4 minutes video, and I hope again that you have the opportunity to see the entire presentation. Otherwise, take this clip to come back in the coming days and weeks to the entire presentation and to put some question if you have any.
Dear colleagues, thank you very much for participating also to this fourth section of the ICAR webinar today. In this section, we will see the somatic cell counting parameter comparability and its traceability to the certified reference material. Using the information collected with the questionnaire distributed in the frame of the project Reference System for Somatic Cell Counting, it was clear that the laboratory performance distribution was due to the use of different secondary reference materials. This is still confirmed today. In this slide, we can see that if we assign to each participant a color of the secondary reference material used, the results are usually grouped with the same color. It means that the instrument calibration are adjusted with different secondary reference materials that they are not traceable each other, because till now a certified reference material was not available. In this slide, we show you the ICAR proficiency testing performance for somatic cell counting over the years. For each year, you see two colors because, as you know, two PT rounds are organized. The dots filled represent the year highlighted on the top of the figure. The unfilled dots represent the previous year's round. In this way, we can visualize where we were, the dots unfilled, where we are, the dots filled. In this slide, the filled dots represent the somatic cell counting distribution in the last proficiency testing scheme conducted in March 2021. So looking to the past rounds, the unfilled dots, we can really see a significant movement of the laboratory performance close to the center of the distribution. And the majority of laboratories are inside of the box of plus minus 10%. In the last years, European Community, ICAR and International Dairy Federation, in the frame of the project Reference System for Somatic Cell Counting, offered several tools to safeguard somatic cell counting measurement towards a better analytical equivalence. Here are listed only the last achievement of 2020-21. European Community Joint Research Centre in spring 2020 started to distribute a certified reference material for somatic cell counting. The ICAR and IDF collaborated to publish a guidance on the applicability of these certified reference materials at the beginning of 2021. In the ICAR Proficiency Test scheme, traceability tests have been elaborated calculating the assigned values of the ICAR Proficiency Test samples traceable with the certified reference materials. Furthermore, stable lyophilized sample can be tested in the ICAR Proficiency Testing Scheme to evaluate the instrument stability and calibration history, because the lyophilized sample are always the same batch in the different PT round. The aim of this presentation was to inform you on the technical information useful to build up a traceable measurement chain for somatic cell counting. This material were tested and discussed in the IDF and the ICAR committees before to published. This was done with the aim to find a consensus among their members. The possibility to have an international proficiency testing scheme organized in the frame of ICAR offer a stable platform with the possibility to discuss anonymous data that can be useful to improve the method performance and equivalence for the benefit of the entire dairy chain.
Okay. So this is this other clip. Of course, the entire presentation provide you for reach of the goal that we have reached in this 1 year and a half, much more details. So if some message were not clear, or if you had the opportunity to see the presentation, I will be more than happy to discuss with you.
So there is a question in the chat. Do you have some information that laboratories with DC, so the differential cell count instruments, have lower or higher results in PT testing? So it means for somatic DC, is it fully compliant, or is the population of instruments different to other somatic cell counters?
The first question, yes, of course, are fully compliant considering the range of acceptance that we have nowadays. They are described by repeatability and reproducibility performance of ISO 13366 part 2 or IDF 148 part 2. Furthermore, these instruments have been certified by ICAR through a complete validation study, because also a collaborative study has been done with the different instruments. So, speaking in terms of ISO IDF, they are, and ICAR guideline, they are fully compliant. If there is a statistical difference in terms of underestimation or overestimation, for me, I cannot answer, because for me is not significant eventually this difference, because they are in the frame of the limit of precision that we have defined nowadays.
There's another.
Furthermore, so probably sometimes simply the analysis of each sample in 2 replicates cannot highlight such performance. So during the certification process, we analyze a lot of sample and for many replicates. So in the certification report, we reported in detail exactly the peculiarities of each instrument. So that provided to the user to pay attention to some aspect for the different instruments.
Now we have 2 groups of questions in the question and answer section. One is about the reference material from the Joint Research Center. So the wish it should be sold in bigger quantities and for less money. I fully understand because this material is really precious. On the other hand, if you look at the validation report, which is offered by the JRC, you will understand that this material is really has demanded much work and much input. So as it is sold by the GRC, you can rely that it's not really a big business. It's just for the costs which were invested in this material. And I can just suppose, or how to say, propose to you to use secondary secondary reference materials which are traced back to this primary material. So there are already some secondary reference materials around which are full traceable and which of course are cheaper or not so expensive as the primary material. I think the other question was, is the reference material used only for calibration or for daily routine? You understand that normally you don't take it for daily routine purposes, but for calibration, if you like, in your lab. And I think in the future, the main task for the reference material will be that the producers of secondary reference materials use it for tracing back or for anchoring their materials to this international standard. Another question, Sylvia?
Just I would like to add some consideration about these important topics. For sure, the role of the secondary reference material in this transition phase it's really extremely important. It's a key role. For that reason, really, I underlined in the entire presentation the importance to use a methodological approach to characterize this secondary reference material in first instance, and the secondary, the user have to be aware and have to have all the technical information to judge or to evaluate if this secondary reference material it's really traceable to the primary. This is quite easy. In the presentation, we provide some tips, and one of them that is not largely used because I think that for many labs is not so familiar to play and with the uncertainty magnitude. But if you notice that the uncertainty of the secondary reference material is smaller than the primary reference material, it means that the traceability process didn't start yet. So this could be the very first simple tips to evaluate your provider. What else? Regarding the use of the certified reference material, your question fit perfectly with the documents that we have provided as the ICAR and the IEF on the use of the certified reference material. It means that using properly this material, you can characterize your quality assurance samples internally, or again, as a provider of secondary reference material, they can characterize the secondary reference material. So you have all the information to optimize in the best way these special materials that arrive in your lab if you prepare and you follow the guideline step by step. So it will be, if you follow the guideline at the end, this material will be cheaper than expected.
Mm-hmm. Another question just asked, is there differences between Foss and Bentley? So I can answer the main source of variation, of course, is the calibration you apply. So in fact, Foss and Bentley machines are well aligned and are stable and are, I say, fit for purpose and have some certificates from ICAR as well. So if you would find differences, certainly it comes from different calibration procedures and that they are not aligned to each other, as Sylvia described before. And another bunch of questions again about camel milk. So the differences between the reference methods for cow's milk and camel milk. I would really propose that you hook up with Sylvia to go deeper within the problem or the discussion between different species and the reference methods. I know that the validation procedures regularly do not take into account camel milk or such rare, well, not so usual milk types of milk usual for Europe or for other parts in the world. So I think it could be problematic, in fact, if the content of fat and protein is very different from cow's milk. But for those special discussions, please refer to Sylvia. Some other questions. Well, as Cesare just was writing in the chat, ICAR Secretariat will provide the link for the videos. So if you had not the chance to watch the videos before, please do, because I think what Sylvia just outlined very briefly, it is explained in more detail. And Sylvia, I repeat and repeat again, this one graph where the labs are, the uncertainty is shrinking or variation is shrinking together to the center is so impressive. And yeah, being a part of this working group for reference systems on somatic cell count, you really see 10 years of work now coming into effect and coming through. So it's so precious to see this picture, and I just can yeah, motivate all of you to print it out and hang it over your desk so that you see what is possible if you work together. Now I see
say that in ICAR, the dreams come true, because we have organized a webinar at the beginning of December 2020, and we saw, oh, we hope in the future to see that feature. And in the round immediately after March, it happened. So good.
Okay, I see Jay Mattison on the screen.
Jay.
Hello, Jay. The floor is yours. If you turn on your mic.
I just wanted to say thank you for putting this together and putting this out to you know, the cooperation and demonstrating how this you know, is kind of going forward and helping to tie everything together. So I just wanted to say thanks.
Thank you, Jay.
So, yeah, thank you. I appreciate Jay. And what is really yeah, striking, the number of participants still is 100. So it's really great to see the reaction of you out there. And it's a great motivation for all the people working in ICAR and in the subcommittee milk analysis to proceed. And we have still some work to do, much work to do. And it's great to have this community of 100 colleagues around the world. Thank you.
There is one question possibly for Sylvia regarding the unit in which urea reference method is presented.
Milligram deciliter.
Okay.
Okay, are there some other questions as we are approaching 3 o'clock here in the center of Europe? We intended to have 1 hour's time for this webinar, but there's still room for questions if you have one.
Just a further addition regarding the IDF ICAR guidance on the use of the certified reference material is a paper. But what is nice is that you can find also a link on this publication where you can download an Excel file that we tested before to publish. This Excel file has been tested at Richbrook in Bayer with the dear colleagues that really invested the time to do that and provide me suggestion on how to be more interactive tools. So you can be, it's a very useful tool because you can check your calibration also virtually. So before to change anything in your instrument, you can evaluate how much have to change your nowadays calibration to become traceable to the golden standard. So you have all the formula already calculated. You have simply to put your data and you have the picture and the answer on what to do, following the step by step, following the guideline well explained. So.
This is really a good hint because I think the difference in ICAR papers, or what we produced during the last years with the joint action team, is really papers which can be used practically. So it's not for theoretical use only, it's also for practitioners, and such tools are really very helpful for you if you try to work really with this data and use these sheets. As Silvia says, please try, and if you have some problems, come back to us. Before Rashid, I give the floor to you. We have another question about the PT. Are there ideas about bacteria count in the PT? And maybe I can answer in the ICAR world, no, because total bacteria count is a very special thing. And I think in an international frame, it's not easy to organize. For ICAR, we take not into account to implement bacteria count. So Rashid, please.
Yeah, we have one issue regarding the delivery time. The samples are shipped generally on Monday from Poligny. In most cases, we receive them on Friday or the week after, which is too late. Sometimes it's exceptionally this time we received them on Wednesday. It was big surprise. It's funny. I tracked from where the samples are going. They're going from France, sometimes going to Swiss, Germany, Belgium, sometimes back to France, and then United States. I don't know why such.
We tried, I know the problem, and also I tried to plan a more expensive shipment to be sure that the sample arrive on time, but this not always worked. So, okay, in March 2020, really we saw big problem due to the COVID explosion, but so. Okay, I take note again, Rashid. Thank you for
I think the problem is with DHL. This is the problem.
Yeah.
For any reason they have
to try to change. As you know, we have tried also to find alternate, very creative solution, sending the sample in the United States and from United States to Canada voluntary. This was a shorter directory. But,
so Rashid, we have something in common. We are complaining about the German Bundespost.
Yeah, do you know, by the way, we participate with QSC from Germany. Okay. We, of this year, first trial, they shipped by DHL, then we received the sample late. In that case, it's not complicated because the samples are frozen. I sent email saying it takes so long. What happened? They changed to UPS. Guess what? In 2 days, we received the sample from Germany.
Okay, so this is experience. I think it's time to wrap up. Silvia?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. If it's possible, could be nice. I don't know if there's a technical possible, Cesare, and to open to all the participants, the panelists, so we can have the entire picture of all of us. Could be nice to take a screenshot, and all of you will appear in the report that we would like to provide as a first experience.
Oh, I have to do it one by one, practically.
Oh, no, I don't. Not possible.
Sorry. We have to complain with Zoom.
Yeah. No, if you are at that point, maybe let me ask the last question or give the last input. Is there another question out there? Do you have an urgent question? I don't see anything on the chat and as well on the question and answer panel. So yeah, it's time to wrap up. Dear colleagues, thank you very much for participation. Hopefully it was interesting for you. Please use the provided material. Go to the ICAR website. In any case, contact Sylvia or me if you have some further questions. And I'm sure that we will be back with another webinar with practical background in the future. So join the network of ICAR and hook up with your colleagues. Thank you for participation and for your time. And thanks again, Sylvia. Thanks again, Cesare.
Thank you for sharing.
Bye-bye.
And thank you to all the participants.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.